Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Questioning a better way, one gracefully disruptive conversation at a time.
Welcome to Turmeric and Tequila. I'm excited to be with you here today. We've got a very exciting conversation coming up about dreams, entrepreneurship, and shooting for big goals. And we're always here for a leadership conversation. So I'm excited to jump in. But before we do, let's give some love to our sponsors and supporters. Lux Neuro, offering neurofeedback and counseling where your heart and mind align. For more information about what neurofeedback can do for you, listen to the Neurofeedback Stories of Transformation in the middle of this podcast. Neurofeedback effectively treats everything from insomnia, anxiety, depression, trauma, ADHD, and much more. Optimize your brain today. Special thank you to Declan James Watches. They are local to Colorado and veteran owned, and 10% of all their sales go back to the Navy SEAL Foundation. So check them out. And then, of course, our very own Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports. So come waterproof yourself and your family today. Check them out at coloradoclownfish.com. Without further ado, Dane Espegard, welcome to Turmeric and Tequila.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited for the convo.
Yes, we are going to lean in. We have lots of leaders, coaches, parents, entrepreneurs that tune in. So I think you're perfect for our TNT audience. Dane is a culture consultant that helps companies increase employee satisfaction and retention by aligning personal dreams with workplace culture. He has spent 20 plus years as a top performer in the direct sales industry. So I'm excited to unpack this one because I don't think a lot of corporations and whatnot want to humanize the culture and the situation and get into the individuality of things, which that's what we're here for here. So before we get into the mission, I like to know about the human behind the mission. So give us a little 4-in-1 on like young Dane and how you were as a kiddo.
For sure. Yeah. So as a kid, I was always into sports and competing in games. And, you know, when I look back, it's like the common thread was always anything that I could have fun at with other people in some sort of competition. So I've taken that into business, but I played all the sports you could think of. I grew up in Lincoln, Nebraska. Awesome childhood. Had some siblings. We didn't really travel a lot other than some road trips to the exciting, vast North Dakota. That's where all our family was at. And that was kind of it. Yeah.
Oh, so were you, sports, I'm on the same page as you. I had 3 younger brothers, so I was kind of thrust into leadership with all these wild animals around me early on, but I am so thankful for all the life skills I developed through sports. Do you feel like that's where your leadership journey initially started?
I think so. I think that sports is just a natural, easy way to introduce, the youth to, hey, somebody's going to be the vocal leader on the team. Somebody's not. And so I was on a lot of different teams for different sports. And I feel like that introduced me to the idea of being led by others, but then also, rising up and being more vocal at certain times. So I think that played a big role in it. And then I was also involved in my mom pushed a lot of just activities in general. So whether it was band or some theater stuff. And I feel like all throughout high school, I was involved in every type of club you could be in. And so being in all sorts of different settings, there was plenty of opportunities for some sort of leadership role in a lot of different avenues.
Absolutely. Where did you fall in line with your siblings?
So I had an older brother, and then I was second, and then I had a younger sister and a younger brother. So I was 2 out of 4.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah. Well, I'm the firstborn, so I always advocate for the firstborns, always know what's up the most. But I think it's very telling of where you were born, like how you live your life. And I don't think there's any better than another. I think we just have different skill sets in different orders.
I think for sure. I think, especially looking at my kids as well, I've got 3 girls, 8, 6, and 1.5. Yes. But I think, for me, being second allowed me to be a little more carefree.
Okay.
And I think that shows up even still today with my older brother and I, being able to, the eldest has to kind of pave the way, take all the bullets first through the door. Right. And the second has a little bit easier when it comes to that stuff.
That is so real. And I think there's natural pressure for the firstborn to then kind of be the leader. So, and that was something I haven't been comfortable with. Did you learn leadership? Because a lot of people listening are leaders, and I don't think they recognize how much of leaders they are. It doesn't have to be grandiose gestures or appointed, positions at work. It can just be like, you're, the heaviest lifter in the class. So everybody watches you, even though you're not trying to be a leader. Did you find your leadership path, or do you feel like it found you?
I think a little bit of both. I definitely have always, again, loved the team aspect of things. And so I was a natural kind of organizer and we'll call it recruiter to say, hey, let's go do this. Let's organize this game. Let's do, whether it was a neighborhood game or a neighborhood league or something like that. So I think that, when you go through all the leadership stuff, there's definitely like people that are, have the innate ability of leadership. And then leadership, the beautiful thing about it is it can also be learned. And I think I was on both sides of the fence with that.
That makes a lot of sense. And I think that teed you up perfectly for what you were going to do, because as intentional, mission-driven humans, I think we try and check all the box deal things. But also I feel like God, universe, Madonna, big Madonna fan, whatever you believe in, things are larger order is teeing you up in some capacity. Because it sounds like you did the corporate world, did very well, which I want to hear about your sales experience. And now you're entering into the entrepreneur world. So you're kind of straddling these worlds at the same time. And I think a lot of people are in that boat nowadays where they want their own side hustle, or maybe they make it their full-time job. But tell me about your corporate experience, and then when you took some of that leap to the entrepreneurship world.
So mine was a little different. So I started in the direct sales space as an 18-year-old. So a lot of people have heard of Cutco knives.
Oh yeah.
And so that's what I did right out of high school, my first job. So I worked at McDonald's for high school, 14 to 18 years old. And that was it. Stayed at the exact same place for 4 years. And then upon graduating from high school, I was like, there's got to be a better opportunity to make some money. And so I found Cutco, which was heavily commission based. And much to my parents' chagrin, they weren't excited about me going home to home selling knives, but I loved it. And it gave me the opportunity to be competitive in the workplace, kind of feel that, leader follower opportunity to kind of straddle both of those, which I really liked. And so I did Cutco through college for 4 years. And upon graduation, I was very interested in just business and entrepreneurship. And Cutco has it's kind of like a franchise model somewhat. So when I graduated college, I opened my own office within the Cutco banner.
Okay.
And so you're independent contractor, but you have the corporate structure. So it's a little of both, but I did that out of school and loved it. So it was 100% commission based right out of college, and built my own team. And then I still to this day run a 6-state area for Cutco.
Oh, wow.
And the direct sales. So I have done that for a long time, and I have a phenomenal team that I'm able to really leverage and utilize it in some great ways. And now I've also been able to try my hand in a lot of different things, from real estate to corporate consulting to some software stuff as well.
That's amazing. Okay. I knew, God, we had tons of friends and teammates and stuff that did Cutco. They've been around forever. And it's very different nowadays, because I think, I don't know how old you are, I'm 44, but when I was in high school, it's no big deal going door to door. Nowadays, I think, especially as a woman, it's a whole, and a high school female, it's a whole different ball game. Have they facilitated different sort of sales strategy? Okay. I'm just curious. So, you won't go down it, but I'd love to know.
Similar times. I'm 40, so it's very similar to back then. It was, I would say far more normal. And we do a ton of stuff with Zoom now, and everything is word of mouth recommendation based. So it's not really, you're not having, the 18-year-old female going door knocking.
Yeah.
So they definitely have evolved. And then we sell a ton of products at events, and there's a lot of different avenues that Cutco's developed since then.
I love it. Well, the world has just changed. I mean, we're getting up there. We're still young at heart, but the landscape on digitally in real life, like so much has changed that the sales strategy has had to change. So I think that's actually the perfect segue. When did you start to really get into like dreams and like humanizing this approach to sales and really caring about people, as cliche as that sounds?
Well, I think so. Part of it was the canister that I had the opportunity to get started in, which was Cutco, a very different type of organization. They introduce 18, 19, 20-year-olds to personal growth at a young age, which for me, that's really what kind of like was the magnet for me to Cutco. I was like, this is awesome. It was addicting. The idea of, back then, again, we're similar age. Podcasts weren't really a thing. Right. I wasn't listening to book on tape, so it was my personal growth would be going to a sales meeting and hearing somebody deliver a message on personal growth. And I was like, this is amazing. So I really fell in love with that. And then Cutco, the sales arm of it, gave me the arena to kind of practice the skills, right? Ask for the order, get rejected, all the things that, the personal growth kind of has. The dreams aspect, I got introduced to it from a guest speaker. So I was at a conference for Cutco back in 2007, and they brought in an author named Matthew Kelly Matthew Kelly's sold millions of books, and he gave a message on dreams. And that was my first introduction to it. And I got so much energy from it that I immediately went back to my sales team, started taking them through the same exercises. And for me, I would say my, professional career, the way that I looked at work was really never the same after that.
Interesting. I'm actually reading the book. It's taking me a while, but The Dark Horse, and it breaks down like standardization and how we kind of follow our heart, and how you can kind of take this path less traveled when you really follow your passions. It sounds like you did that, because you said early on, I loved Cutco, and then you loved this speaker. What do you think it was in you that you intrinsically just followed your heart and like really leaned into that? I think a lot of people don't do that, and they just do what they're supposed to do.
I think my parents had a lot to do with it. And I think the timing of when I found, I work with so many different people now, and I recognize the uniqueness of at 18, 19, 20, 21 years old, I had nothing to risk, right? So it was very easy for me to choose a commission-based job. When somebody's 30 years old and they have a mortgage and they have kids, it's tough for them to make the pivot to say, I'm going to go bet on myself. But at a young age, graduating from college, I was like, I have all the energy in the world. I've got all the time. I'm willing to work 100 hours. And so for me, it was, I'll absolutely bet on myself. And so I didn't know that I was necessarily following my passion or following my heart as much as I was following my energy. Right.
Oh, okay.
And now I recognize that those things align. But back then I was just like, what am I fired up to go do? And they had my interest from 18 on. And so when I graduated college, it was just I could go get another job, but I'm already kind of at second base with this company. So let me just see what happens for a year or two out of college. And my income kept growing, and I kept attracting better quality talent around me. And I like creating teams. And so for me, it was, I got to see that in real time every single year. I got to see that grow.
Once an athlete, always an athlete. I love that mentality. Do you try and hire athletes specifically?
I wouldn't say I try, but when they are there, it's like, absolutely. Like there's something that, you just kind of, I was talking to somebody who's on another team that I work with right now that was a D1 soccer player, a woman D1 soccer player. And it's like, you just know they've got that aggression, that not in a bad way, but the aggression to pursue something, go through the obstacles, deal with coaching in a positive way. Right.
Absolutely.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, I try. So I'll be totally transparent. I think that's something that I'd certainly go after, especially being a former athlete. I think there's just that common denominator. And I'm sure that, the vibe attracts the tribe. So we have those athletic vibes out there. So I'm sure our radar is kind of bringing them in anyways.
Yes.
And it's nice when they can handle our energy on the flip side, because it's definitely a two-way street.
100%.
A little bit different. Okay, so tell us, I'm curious about this now, because dreams can go a million different ways, but you've got the dreamsvault.com and the Dream Machine book, but give us that early entrance with the guy, the public speaker that really enlightened you. Give us a 10,000 foot view on what dreams mean to you. Then let's talk about the book.
So dreams for me, it gives us more of a pursuit of what are we doing with our lives? And dealing with Cutco, I deal with hundreds of students every single year. And I get to see firsthand, they go to college, they pick a major. They don't really know if they want to do that major. Nobody said, I was born to be an accountant. I was born to be an engineer. So what happens is we pick majors based on a lot of times what our parents think we should do. That's going to give us the most stability and security. And deep down, it doesn't light us up at all in here. And so you end up seeing this as people turn 30 and 35 and 40, where they start to question, what am I doing? And I'm not happy. And so even for me, it's I wasn't born to work for a knife company, but why would I say I'm super fulfilled with my life? It's less to do with the day-to-day job as much as that's fueling me living the life of my dreams. So it's not, it's this whole misnomer of we have a work life and a personal life. It's no, we have one life. And as much as we'd like to keep them separate, it's impossible. If things are going great at home, I'm probably going to bring that energy to work. If things are horrible at home, I'm probably bringing that energy to work. And so what I found is, how can I keep people really excited about working at a knife company, right? That's the last thing that people said, when I'm older, I'm going to sell knives for my career. And we have people that have been on our team for 20 years that are in their 40s that are loving what they're doing. And it's not because of selling the product, it's because of what that enables them to do. They're traveling all over the world. They're achieving health goals, financial goals, adventure goals. And so to me, I look at the dreams thing is that's a massive menu for somebody that I'm not creating for them. They create for themselves to say, if I could do these 100, 200, 500 things that are on my list, it would bring me joy. And so as an employer, that's all I want is I want my people to experience joy. If they are, I don't think they're going to leave my team. If they do leave my team, it is for something that's amazing, and I'd support that.
I love that. And I really hope we get a lot of, like I said, leaders, entrepreneurs, small businesses, but I really hope large corporate leaders hear this because there is such massive impact and intel and caring about the individual. And that's not something I think our generations grew up with. The corporate's like, did you do your job? Get in, get out. We won't even unpack equal pay. But it was very like transactional. And in this day and age, our young humans coming up are not like that. They're not motivated by rims and Escalades and like CDs and stuff like that we were. So it's a totally different approach. Do you feel like some of this approach was inspired by not only the inspirational speaker, but also how you were consistently amongst young people and seeing how the landscape was developing and changing, like the culture?
Yes, absolutely. I think it was a combination. And I was exposed to it in 2007. I didn't really jump in and make this my team's culture until 2013. So it took me about 6 years. And during that 6 years, I think it was me kind of, dealing with turnover. And it was, man, I keep losing my best people. And Cutco naturally is a student employer, right? So 18 to 22, we lose a lot of our best talent. But for me, I kept going back to what would it look like if I was able to retain the best talent, the talent that corporate America tries to take from me all the time. And that was very counterintuitive to the Cutco model. It was like, no, those are people that you're typically going to lose. And so what I went back to was what would be a culture that I would never want to leave? And that's where I settled back on dreams. So I got back into that. And once I started really putting that in front of the students, they started sticking around 5 years after college, 10 years after college. And it wasn't because, again, it was knives. It was that they could see themselves progressing here and living a great life. And so much of it is not getting that promotion or it's, hey, where can I be that I can be a phenomenal husband or a phenomenal wife, a great parent, and the work can provide me the autonomy to do those things.
Amen. Yeah, this whole human approach as an athlete and then working health and wellness space, it's if it's not just nutrition, it's not just training, it's not just sleep, it's all these things. And people forget how much time we spend at work and how much time we spend with the people at work. And this is a huge chunk of our lives. So if you break that hourly wage or yearly wage up and then divide it by the amount of years you live, like you put a price on your life and your time. So it's really a big decision. And this individualized approach is not only important for the employees, but for the leader as well. It's miserable. If they're miserable, you're miserable. Yeah. So it's a really hard thing. But I don't know why they didn't question earlier, but like you have taken that long path to figure stuff out, 2, 5, 10 years, and then the path becomes more clear. Tell us specifically, obviously it became very clear when you wrote the book, The Dream Machine. Tell us about that and who's that ideal for?
Well, so a buddy of mine is the reason that I wrote it. So a friend of mine, one of my closest friends, his name's Justin Donald. He wrote the book, The Lifestyle Investor. And Justin and I have known each other for a really long time. And during COVID, he and I went to like a dude ranch in Montana, right? It was like in the thick of COVID. Everybody was, freaking out. And I was super stressed. And my wife basically pulled me aside and was like, hey, and I won't swear, but she called me into the house. And she goes, okay, I'm going to say exactly what she said. This is in July 2020. She pulls me into that. She goes, hey, I don't know how to say this, but you've been a really big bitch lately. And I was like, excuse me? I love it. And she goes, hold on, before you get upset. I know why. I was really stressed with work and it was COVID and all that. She goes, so I already talked to Justin and I booked you a stay at this dude ranch in Montana. So you guys I was like, okay, you can call me whatever you want if you're going to send me on a trip with my best bud. Yeah. So I go with him to Montana and he was just finishing writing his book and launching a podcast and a mastermind. And fast forward, the book hit #1 bestseller and it's this big thing now. But while we were together, I was like, this sounds really cool. I don't think I have a thing that I could write a book on. He goes, what are you talking about? He goes, it's the dreams thing. Because in Cutco, I've always been known as that. And so he goes, it's that. That is absolutely what you have to share. And so I said, well, I don't have the time. And he basically popped all my excuses and was like, yes, you do. And so that was September 2020. And by September 2021, I was launching the book already. So he's the one who kind of sparked it. But it's for small to medium-sized business owners that don't have the budget to hire somebody specifically in place for this. And it's the idea of like, how can we make something, a culture that's centered around this, that's more put on the employees, so that it's not a difficult thing that you have to, have a whole operating system or change the way that we do things on from A to Z.
That's amazing. I want to go back a little bit. We broke up a little bit because of this glorious internet, but you took this trip, and it sounds like, I'm going to say, like God, universe, Madonna intervenes, kind of disrupted your path, and then provided a moment you needed someone in. I think a lot of our leaders don't understand how much we need, myself included, other people to. And it's important that we keep those kind of people close. So you went on this trip, you had clarity. How long was it before you had that moment of clarity and you actually started the book and this side of the business?
1 month.
Okay.
So I got back from, so my wife's amazing, and she constantly is challenging me to have a bigger impact. And so when I came back from that trip, I was like, hey, it was amazing. Thanks for sending me. And here's one of my main takeaways was this conversation I had with Justin. And if I were to go down this path, here's about how much this would cost. And there's a book writing service that can help me kind of give me the blueprint. And I said, what do you think? And I was kind of hemming and hawing about the money. And she's like, do it. And I was like, well, did you hear how much it was? And she's like, I want you to do it. And so I hired a book writing company that kind of held my hand through. It was great. They held my hand through the whole process. And, 11 months later, I was launching a book.
Good. That's amazing. How did you find that service? Because I'm always curious, because there's a million directions you can go.
Through my friend Justin. He had the contact. He didn't use them, but he was buddies with the CEO, the owner at the time. So the company that I used was Scribe.
Okay.
And they're based in Austin, Texas.
Very cool. Did your wife ask for a percentage once things were out?
She gets a 50-50 percentage of everything.
She should have said 60-40 because she was.
That's right.
But no, shout out to your wife. I'm here for it. Was she a former athlete too?
She was a gymnast in cheer. It was.
Very cool.
And now she's a competitive horse dressage rider. Yeah.
Very cool. Okay. That I know there's no fountain of youth like staying in the game, literally. Like professionally, I would say business is the new fitness, but you got to stay as athletes, stay competitive however you can. That's amazing. Okay. So, and then the dreamsvault.com, tell us about that. Is that if someone is like a follower and subscriber of the book, then is the community?
So it is. When I wrote the book, I knew that I didn't really have anything to monetize when I wrote the book. It was like, hey, here's how to go and implement this into your business. And basically a company could hire me to do a workshop, like a dreams workshop, to get their team rolling. But what really makes this work is the actual tracking of dreams and the clarity and the visibility of dreams. And I didn't have that built when I wrote the book. So 2 years later, I launched the Dreams Vault. And now what that is, it's basically a one-stop shop for any of the companies that I work with. For instance, Malk is a company I've been working with for the last couple of years. They're awesome.
Yeah.
Their full team is in Dreams Vault. So what that means is every employee of the company, when they log into the Dreams Vault, it has their 100, 200, 300 dreams. They can take notes on them. They can set dates, deadlines. And then there's visibility for HR or leaders of the team to be able to see those, use those for incentives. When somebody accomplishes a dream, they mark it. It gets celebrated by the whole team. So it's basically a really simple way for the whole team to have visibility of their dreaming and be able to track the progress. So at the end of the year, they can say, as a team, we accomplished 150 dreams instead of just, here's how much Malk we sold in the year.
That's amazing. I actually know them well. They're women-owned out of Texas, right?
Yeah, they're out of Texas. Yeah.
Yeah. I know them. And tell them to come call Turmeric and Tequila. We're fans over here. So if you want to sponsor a female-owned podcast, we're here for that. I think that's really great. And it's so great to see these smaller companies lean in, because I know budgets, even when you're successful, are still really lean and tight. And there's so much hustle in the beginning. And that's a super competitive space. So it's great for them to really take that initiative inside their teams. Can you, without giving away the book, can you give us a little idea or scope of what the strategy is in case people are interested?
Yeah, I mean, the whole book stems from the quote, when there's hope in the future, there's power in the present. And so the idea is stop talking to everybody about just for moments in time, stop talking about their deadlines, their sales objectives, their job, and talk to them as a human. And basically the idea is, hey, if money were unlimited, time were unlimited, what would be the things that would bring you joy in life? And we take people through 9 categories. So in the book, I explain how to do the initial workshop, how to set the table for this. Then we talk about, what do you do with those dreams, how to utilize them to move your people forward. I'm just a firm believer that if I can get people on my team pursuing 1 to 2 dreams a quarter, that if they're constantly in pursuit, they're going to be the best version of them. It happens all the time where we sign up for, somebody gets motivated and says, I'm going to run a half marathon. Well, during those 2-3 months leading up to it, they're running more often. They're making healthier choices. That's obviously going to benefit them in the workplace. So if I can get them to do that 12 months out of the year, I'm not even talking to them about work, but it's just going to be a more refined, heightened version of them that's showing up on the day-to-day basis. So the book talks about how to do that whole ecosystem, how to remind people, how to use it as incentives and gifts, and how to do it for free, basically.
Yeah, love it. One good decision leads to another. That's what I love about races. Again, back to athletics, but business-wise, same situation. What are some of the coolest dreams that you've heard now that you've done this for a while?
Oh my gosh. Coolest is, it's tough to answer with that, but there's so many times where, you talk about universe Madonna, that when people put their dream out there, it magically happens so much easier. And what I mean by that is somebody will share in a group setting, and then somebody from across the room will say, actually, my cousin owns a company that blank, and all of a sudden there's a connection and they're that much faster to it. But I always joke around because my, like Christmas shopping for my team, it's all on their dreams list. So we have a conference that's coming up where I'll be with everybody in person. So I'll give them cards, and in the card, it'll have what their gift is. And their gift is just straight from their dreams list. So there's 2 people on it's going to sound really weird, but there's 2 people on my team that they're getting colonics.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Aggressive.
Why?
Perfect.
Because I look for things on their list that I'm like, they're never going to spend their own money on that.
Yeah.
But they had it on their list. So I was like, well, I'm going to find a local place for them, call in, get a free, pay for a free session. And so I like to buy things that I know they're not going to spend their money on. That would be a memorable thing to say, I can't believe my boss bought me blank, but this is what my gift was. So there's stuff like that. And then there's just the cool ones of, doing the Camino de Santiago, like the spiritual walk in Spain, or an off the grid hunting trip, or, those types of things, which I love when people come back to me and say, thanks so much for, the session. Because of you, 11 months later, I did this thing that I've been waiting to do. And I'm like, that's so cool. Right. We're one conversation away from making awesome decisions is the way I look at it.
That's why we podcast right there. You just summed up the entire journey of this, the whole mission and the why. It's so real though. And the more we can work together and connect and see how much opportunity out there, but saying it out loud and shifting this perspective around what's possible. I feel like I'm going to come apply and then put Beyonce tickets on my list. So not only is it expensive, but we'll give you a challenge to find some good ones.
I love that.
Yeah, that's funny. What are your dreams? Now you've done this a while. Like it sounds like your wife's pushing dream bigger, which I'm here for. What's on the agenda for you?
Kristen, I have so many. So like my dreams list, I have about 400 that are on the list, and it's ever growing.
Okay.
I've got people on my team that have over 1,000, but the one that's present right now is when we're done with this, I'm going straight to the airport and I'm flying to Indianapolis to pick up our brand new Class A motorhome.
Hey.
So we've been doing more camping as a family. So I put it on my list that I wanted to get we just rent, but I wanted to get my own large. So I'm getting a 39-foot RV that I'm picking up tomorrow and then driving back to Austin, Texas.
Okay. This is really random. We won't digress, but I grew up, my parents were competitive water skiers. So we drove 2 hours every weekend to a lake, and we had like a parked fifth wheel. Technology has changed. And they were nice, but like those hours together, I thought I was going to murder my brothers, but it was just such constant, like family time. And it was we rode dirt bikes. I mean, I got thrown into everything, but it was such magical family time. So I'm an advocate for that kind of stuff. Even if you have to drag your kids by the hair to get them to go and do it.
Our girls love it. We call it forced family fun. And I'm such a better dad when we're in close proximity. It's like, I can't escape it. Right. So it's all
neither can
right
they.
in front of me. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So
that's great.
They're our oldest are 8 and 6. And so their opinions are only shaped by their life experience so far, which is camping's fun. So until they revolt. We're gonna stick them in there as long as we can.
Well, you're gonna have some strong women because your wife's already. So I'm telling you, the 12,
Yes.
13, 14, but you don't want it any other way. That's okay. Embrace the battles early on. Well, I have a million more questions. I love what you're doing. I love this perspective of really leaning into the human and finding out how we make life in general more enjoyable. I think that's uncomfortable for a lot of our corporate giants because it's just too touchy-feely.
Mm-hmm.
But then you show that productivity and the whole thing changes. So I think that's great. Final question. I'm very curious what you have to say. What is success to you?
I think success, I feel like I know if I'm being successful at the end of my day if I have just as much energy at the beginning of the day.
Boom.
And that means I'm staying in my zone of genius and I'm, spending time with people that fill me up.
All the things. Nailed it. Do you think, I'm just curious because you mentioned energy so much. Energy is like my through line. You identify as like religious, spiritual, like what's your faith base?
So I grew up Catholic, and then the second I wasn't forced to go to church anymore, then I would say I was spiritual. And in the last 3 years, we've really gotten back into our faith. We found an amazing church. And so now both religious and spiritual.
Love it. Well, it all kind of intersects, science and energy and it's all, but whatever. I just think it's such an important piece, however you package that and identify, is to tap into a larger energy source because even energetic humans like ourselves need that additional, spiritual Red Bull once in a while.
That's right. I love that.
All right, Dane, I love it. If humans want to find you, hit us with websites, details. Where do we get the book? Give us all the 411.
Yeah, so people can just find me on DaneEspegard.com or on Instagram at Dane Espegard. I'm the only one that's out there with that name. And then for the book, they can get, if they want to download a free PDF of the book, I'm more than happy to do that. They can just go to www.daneespegard.com/free book. And you'll be able to get that, or excuse me, free gift, and you'll be able to get a free PDF of the book as well. The book wasn't an effort to make money; it was to spread the dreaming culture as much as possible. So that's why I do that.
Hey, share the intel, and everything comes back tenfold. So I'm with that. Dane, I really appreciate the time and energy. I'm excited to see how this grows. Do you do public speaking yourself?
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Okay. Well, we're working. I don't know if you've been to Colorado or not, but we're getting some leaders to try and pull up out here. So I'll keep in touch and
I would love it.
Yeah, perhaps we'll go there. I want to give a special thank you to our sponsors, Lux Neuro, Neurofeedback and Counseling. Lux Neuro wants to meet you. If you're ready to transform your life, visit them at luxneuro.com and schedule a consultation today. Colorado Clownfish Swim School, swim lessons and water safety training for all ages. They believe in life skills through sports. So go waterproof your family today, coloradoclownfish.com. Check us out wherever you get your podcasts, and this video will be on YouTube. We'll see you all soon. Thank you again for time and energy, and we'll keep in touch.
Thanks a lot, Kristen.
Cheers.
Thank you for joining Turmeric and Tequila with your host, Kristen Olson. Tune in next time, and don't forget to subscribe on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen.